Okay, Tom Stickney here from Tom Stickney Golf, and I want to go through the swing of Beatriz Recari and using the pressure and stance graphic so you can kind of see what goes on within the graphic itself, as well as what you see as a teacher from the swing. And one of the greatest things about Beatriz's golf swing is it's very balanced, very poised, and she's an incredible ball striker on the LPGA Tour. But the one thing that I do want to show in this video is that the actions of her footwork and of her pressure are spectacular as well, and show us a lot about what she does in her swing, and it explains us the how. And the how is very important because as a teacher, I want to know how things happen, and so I can have data and information so I don't make mistakes, and so we can maximize her performance. So basically here at the setup, you will see that she is balanced, basically balanced from toe to heel, and this number right here shows us how wide her stance is. The cool thing about that is over time we can start to see within her forces and how she moves what the individual stance width might be for her. We might find that 20.9 is perfect, it might be too wide, it might be too narrow, but before it was always a guess, and now we actually have data to back up that, hey, this narrow stance at 18 inches or whatever seems to help you to move around a little bit better, or vice versa. So that's really cool. So anyway, you can see here she's pretty balanced from side to side. You can see that most of her weight is located here on the toes of her feet, and that kind of shows a more athletic position. She's kind of getting ready to rock and roll, and we'll see what happens. So as she takes it back, you can see as we take it back, that little white ball moves, and that little gray line is her center of pressure trace. So we'll go all the way to about right here. And so right at this particular point, somewhere around in here, give or take a percentage or two, you can see that there's the peak pressure on her rear foot going back at 75%. You can see that the weight is moving through the COP trace kind of into the rear heel, and it's on the inside of the foot. And the great thing about this is as she gets all the way to the top, we get all the way to the top right here. There we go. Right at the top, you can see the weight is still centralized on the inside of the heel of the trail foot, and that obviously provides a point that we can move off of. All too often you'll see amateurs have the weight over here, and it makes it impossible to get off your back foot. One thing you'll notice is right at this point, we had the peak pressure on her trail foot at a certain percentage. You'll notice that the center of pressure starts to move kind of in a line, a diagonal line towards her forward toe. And if you'll notice in the video up here, this is about the time she starts to kind of push off her rear foot, as you can see that right there. And as that trace shoots towards her lead toe, that's when the club starts to drop to the inside, and you can see that. One thing you'll notice, whenever you see players that have a big diagonal shift from the rear heel to the lead toe, you're usually going to see the players have a big drop to the inside. That's their way of sliding the hips into right field, laterally rebalancing the weight, and that gives room for the right shoulder to drop down, the club to shallow. And she does that obviously very, very well. One of the strong points of her golf swing. Now, at this particular position, we are trailing down into the delivery position. And as she comes down, you're going to start to see we still have a lot of weight centralized here on the toe of her lead foot. And it is at this point, or maybe even a little before this point, that the forward knee needs to start to post. And if the forward knee starts to post, that deaccelerates the body and helps to move power up the body and into the club head. But what happens is when players get a little soft in the forward knee and don't quite get that weight back into their heel and don't post up as effectively, as you can see in the graph right here, you can see she's trying to move, she's trying to post up, but her weight's still very centralized on the ball of her foot, and then what you'll see is this particular COP trace does not go down into her heel deep enough, and that means that she can't slow her body fast enough, and that she's going to have a little softness in the lead knee, which you can see right there. And as she reaches down here to impact, boom, she might have a little power leak. Now, does that mean that it's something that we'd have to work on immediately? Of course not. We would have to note what her problems are, and we'd have to look at what her distance output is, and sometimes you fiddle with it, sometimes you don't. But as a teacher, I look at that and I kind of go, hey, there's something going on right there. We see something in the knee, so maybe that's something we look at. But now all of a sudden we can find out. And then as she rotates into her finished position here in a second, you'll see a wonderful balanced position. You'll see the weight starts to continue to trail into the heel. And then the one thing I love about Beatrice's golf swing is that as you look at where she is in her finish, let me get it right there, you can see the weight is distributed on the middle portion to the outside portion of her lead foot. She doesn't have it rolled all the way to the outside. There's still a substantial amount on the mid portion of her foot. And this gives her balance. It helps the foot not to slip around and slide around. And, obviously it gives her a stable platform in which to rotate her body around. If this comes out from under her while she's starting to finish, she could have problems with her knee, problem with her back, and things like that. One of the kind of cool things, you can definitely see the rear toe is the only thing that she has weight on. So that's a pretty good thing for all you hangback amateurs out there. So let me play her golf swing again full, and then you can see as she takes it back kind of how that pressure trace happens and how she moves. But once again, a very amazing golf swing from a great young professional. And I think now you can see how valuable just understanding how the pressure and the stance graphic is to making you a better player. All right, thank you very much. Hope you had a blast.